Body tools.
8 hours that destroyed everything. Found text messages between my fiancée and her work husband. I sold the house. Emptied. Our 85K wedding account and left with O's. Out a trace. Life update. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Before we dive into today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss my updates. If you're new here, I'm Jake, and this channel is usually about travel hacks and financial independence. But today's video is different. Very different. I've been getting thousands of DMs asking where I've been for the past 8 months. Why I suddenly disappeared from social media. Why my wedding hashtag vanished. And most importantly, what happened between me and Melissa. Well, I'm finally ready to tell that story. All of it. This is going to be the most personal video I've ever made. It's the story of how my entire life fell apart in just 48 hours, and how I made the most difficult decision of my life, walking away from everything I thought I wanted. The perfect couple. Or so I thought. Melissa and I met 5 years ago at a friend's New Year's Eve party. She was the woman I couldn't take my eyes off all night. Confident, stunning, with this laugh that could fill an entire room. When the countdown to midnight began, we somehow ended up next to each other. And that first kiss, well, it felt like something out of a movie. We moved quickly after that. Within 6 months, we were living together. By year 2, we were talking about marriage. Everyone called us the perfect couple. We'd both established successful careers, me at a financial consulting firm, her at a prestigious marketing agency. We traveled together, ran marathons together, built our dream home together. When I proposed on our 3-year anniversary during a trip to the Amalfi Coast, her tearful yes felt like the most genuine moment of my life. The photo I posted of us on that cliff top overlooking the Mediterranean got over 15,000 likes. Relationship goals, people commented. If only they knew what was coming. We spent the next year planning what was supposed to be our dream wedding. A destination ceremony in Santorini. 80 of our closest friends and family. We'd saved $85,000 in our joint wedding account, a combination of our own savings and generous gifts from our parents. The date was set for July 15th, just 3 months away from when everything fell apart. I remember joking with friends about how lucky I was. I somehow convinced the most amazing woman in the world to marry me, I'd say. I truly believed she was my soulmate, my partner, my future. I was wrong. The first crack in the perfect picture, the first sign something was off, came about 6 months before our wedding date. Melissa started mentioning a new colleague named Chris. He'd just transferred from the London office, and they'd been assigned to work together on a major campaign for a luxury car brand. Chris thinks we should approach it this way. Chris and I were brainstorming, and Chris recommended this amazing sushi place for lunch. It was subtle at first, just a new name that kept popping up in conversation. I didn't think much of it. Melissa had plenty of colleagues she was friendly with, both male and female. I trusted her completely. Then came the late nights at the office, the weekend emergency meetings, the work trips that suddenly required both of them to attend. Again, I didn't question it. Melissa had always been ambitious and dedicated to her career. It was one of the things I loved about her. "We're in the final push for this campaign," she'd explain, kissing me quickly before heading out on a Saturday morning. "The client is demanding changes, and Chris and I need to rework the entire concept." Looking back, the red flags were waving frantically in front of my face. But when you love someone, when you trust someone completely, you become blind to the obvious. Friends would ask, "Aren't you worried about her spending so much time with this Chris guy?" I'd laugh it off. Melissa and I are rock solid. Besides, work is work. That was my first mistake, assuming our relationship was too strong to be threatened. The night that changed everything. The beginning of the end came on an ordinary Thursday in April. Melissa texted that she'd be working late again, so I decided to meet up with my brother for dinner and drinks. We had a great time catching up, and I got home around midnight, slightly buzzed but happy. Melissa wasn't home yet, which wasn't unusual these days. I took a quick shower and collapsed into bed, falling asleep almost instantly. I woke up around 3 a.m., sensing something was off. Reaching over to Melissa's side of the bed, I found it empty and cold. I checked my phone. No messages. That's when the first real spike of worry hit me. I called her phone. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Same result. Now fully awake and increasingly concerned, I sent a text. "Hey, everything okay? Getting worried?" 5 minutes passed. 10. No response. My mind started creating scenarios. She'd been in an accident. Her phone had died. She'd fallen asleep at the office. But none of them felt right. Acting on instinct, I opened our iPad that we kept on the bedside table. Melissa and I had always shared our device passwords. We had nothing to hide from each other. Her email and messages were synced to it, and I thought maybe she'd sent an email about working through the night, or mentioned plans I'd forgotten. What I found instead destroyed my world in an instant. There on the screen were hundreds of text messages between Melissa and Chris. Not work messages, not friendly colleague messages. These were intimate, explicit, emotional. I can't stop thinking about last night. When can we be alone again? I've never felt this way about anyone before. This meeting is so boring. Wish we were in your car again instead. With shaking hands, I scrolled through months of messages. There were photos I can't describe on this channel. Plans for their work trips that clearly involved sharing hotel rooms. Complaints about me. Jokes about our upcoming wedding. And the most recent exchange from just hours earlier. "Chris, can't wait to see you tonight. Does he suspect anything?" Melissa, "Not a clue. Told him working late again. He trusts me completely. Meet you at your place in 20. My stomach lurched. My hands went numb. The room seemed to spin around me as 5 years of trust and love and planning for the future imploded in an instant. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. Then I sat on the cold tile floor, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of what I'd just discovered. She was cheating on me. Had been for months. With her work husband, that's actually what she called him in some of the messages, and in 3 months, we were supposed to be getting married. The 48 hours that changed my life. What I did next was not planned. It wasn't strategic. It was pure self-preservation, fueled by a combination of heartbreak, betrayal, and sudden clarity. First, I took screenshots of everything. The messages, the photos, the lies. I emailed them to myself, then deleted the emails from the sent folder on the iPad. I don't know why I did this, maybe as evidence for myself later when I inevitably started questioning my own sanity. Then I went into our bedroom and packed a bag, just essentials, enough for a few days. I grabbed my passport, birth certificate, and other important documents from our home office. Around 4 a.m., I heard a car door slam outside. Melissa was home. I quickly turned off all the lights and lay back in bed, pretending to be asleep. My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure she'd hear it. She crept into the bedroom, undressed in the dark, and slipped into bed beside me. The smell of unfamiliar cologne clung to her. She reeked of betrayal, yet had the audacity to kiss my shoulder gently before turning away. I lay there, completely still, listening to her breathing gradually slow as she fell asleep. The woman I loved, who I'd built my life around, who was wearing the engagement ring I'd spent months saving for, had just come home from another man's bed and now lay beside me as if nothing had happened. In that moment, something hardened inside me. A decision crystallized in my mind with perfect clarity. I needed to disappear from this life. Completely. Immediately. I waited until I was certain she was deep asleep. Then I silently got up, took my packed bag, and left our bedroom for the last time. In our home office, I opened my laptop and began executing what would become my 48-hour exit plan. First, I transferred all of my personal money from our joint accounts to a new account I created at a different bank. Then, and this is the part that many people have judged me harshly for, I transferred the entire $85,000 from our wedding fund to that same account. Before you label me a thief, let me clarify. About $40,000 of that money was mine, saved diligently over 3 years. Another $20,000 was from my parents. The remaining $25,000 was from Melissa and her family. So yes, I took money that wasn't entirely mine. In the moment, it felt like fair compensation for the years of my life she'd wasted, for the future she'd stolen from me. Next, I called my boss, yes, at 5 a.m., and left a voicemail explaining that I had a family emergency and needed to take all my accumulated vacation time effective immediately. That gave me nearly 4 weeks. I wrote 2 letters, one to my parents, explaining that I was safe but needed time alone, and asking them not to worry or look for me. The second was to Melissa. It contained just 3 sentences. I know everything about you and Chris. I've taken what's mine. Don't try to find me. I left both letters on the kitchen counter. By 6 a.m., as the first light of dawn was breaking, I quietly walked out of the home we'd built together and didn't look back. The disappearing act. For the next 48 hours, I moved with single-minded purpose. First stop, a budget hotel near the airport, where I checked in under my name. I needed a base of operations while I figured out my next steps. I turned off my phone, removed the SIM card, and bought a prepaid phone for essential communications. Next, I contacted a real estate attorney I knew through work. I explained that I needed to relinquish my claim on our house, which was in both our names, as quickly and cleanly as possible. I didn't share the full story, just that my relationship had ended abruptly and I wanted a clean break. He was confused, but didn't press for details when I agreed to his rush fee. The paperwork was prepared by the end of that day. Signing those documents, effectively giving Melissa full ownership of our dream home, felt both devastating and liberating. With the stroke of a pen, I was untethering myself from the life we'd built. I then reached out to my closest friend, Sam, the only person I decided to tell the truth to. I met him at a coffee shop, showed him the screenshots, and explained my plan to disappear for a while. "This is insane," he kept saying. "You need to confront her, not run away." But I knew confrontation wouldn't heal what was broken inside me. I needed distance, perspective, a complete reset. "I just need you to check my mail and keep an eye on my parents," I told him. "Don't tell anyone you've spoken to me, not even your wife." Sam reluctantly agreed, though he made me promise to send a text every few weeks, just confirming I was alive. By the end of those 48 hours, I had 1. Transferred all my money to a new account, 2. Signed over my claim to our house, 3. Booked a one-way ticket to Bangkok, leaving the next morning. 4. Packed my essential belongings into a storage unit. 5. Deleted all my social media apps. 6. Left my car in the long-term parking at the airport, with the keys and title in an envelope addressed to my brother. As I boarded that plane, sending one final text to Sam that simply said, "Taking off," I felt like I was watching someone else's life unfold. The pain was still there, a constant, throbbing ache in my chest. But it was overshadowed by a strange sense of freedom. I was no longer Jake, the betrayed fiancé. I was no one. And somehow, that was exactly what I needed to be. The aftermath that I heard about later. From what Sam told me in our occasional brief communications, the aftermath of my disappearance was exactly the chaos you might expect. Melissa apparently woke up around 9 a.m. that morning, found my note, and initially thought it was some kind of joke. She called my phone repeatedly, then started calling my friends and family, all of whom were equally confused. When she checked our joint accounts and found them emptied, she apparently had a complete meltdown. According to Sam, she showed up at my parents' house in hysterics, demanding to know where I was. They showed her the letter I'd left them, proving they were just as in the dark as she was. The next blow came when she was contacted by my attorney regarding the house paperwork I'd signed. Suddenly, she was the sole owner of a mortgage she couldn't afford on her own. And then there was the wedding. All those non-refundable deposits, the guests who'd booked flights to Santorini, the explanations she'd have to give. Sam said she tried to spin a story about me having a mental breakdown and abandoning her. She conveniently left out the affair with Chris. But that story fell apart when my brother, who never particularly liked Melissa, hacked into my email account, he knew my password, and found the screenshots I'd sent myself. In what I'm told was a spectacular display of family loyalty, he forwarded them to our entire extended family and several of our mutual friends. The truth was out. Melissa's perfectly curated image crumbled overnight. I know this might sound like revenge, but it wasn't orchestrated by me. I genuinely didn't want drama or exposure. I just wanted to disappear. The public unveiling of her betrayal was an unexpected consequence of my brother's protective instincts. From the fragments I've gathered from Sam's updates, Melissa and Chris are still together. They moved into a smaller apartment after she was forced to sell our house. Our wedding date came and went. My social media accounts, which I never reactivated, apparently still receive occasional angry messages from her or mutual friends who took her side. But the truth is, after those first few months, I stopped asking Sam for updates. The details of her life no longer mattered to me. The pain had transformed into something different, not gone, but changed in form. Less like an open wound and more like a scar that occasionally pulls when stretched. Where I've been for 8 months. So what happens when you walk away from your entire life with nothing but a backpack, a broken heart, and $85,000? In my case, healing, growth, reinvention. That one-way ticket to Bangkok was the beginning of what became an 8-month journey across Southeast Asia. From the chaos of Thai street markets to the serenity of Vietnamese rice fields. From Cambodian temples at dawn to Indonesian beaches at sunset. At first, I was running, moving from place to place every few days, as if trying to outpace my thoughts. I stayed in cheap hostels, ate at local food stalls, and tried to exhaust myself physically so I could sleep without dreams. But gradually, something shifted. The constant movement slowed. I began staying in places for weeks instead of days. I made temporary friends, other travelers or locals who didn't know my story, who took me at face value rather than seeing me through the lens of what had happened. In a small town in northern Laos, I met an elderly American expat who had been living there for 20 years. Over homemade whiskey, I found myself telling him my story. The first time I'd shared it with anyone besides Sam. Instead of the pity or shock I expected, he simply nodded and said, "So you've been given a rare gift, the chance to completely reinvent yourself. What will you do with it?" That question became my North Star. I started writing, first in journals, processing my thoughts and grief, then expanding to travel observations, and eventually to pieces about personal finance and location independence that I submitted to online publications under a pseudonym. I took a TEFL course in Chiang Mai and spent 6 weeks teaching English to children in a rural community. Their uncomplicated joy and curiosity began to thaw something frozen inside me. I learned to scuba dive in the Philippines, coming face to face with whale sharks and feeling truly small for the first time in my life. Small in a way that put my problems into perspective. I practiced meditation at a monastery in Myanmar, sitting in silence for 10 days, watching my thoughts without attachment. The betrayal, the pain, the anger, I observed them all rising and falling like waves, gradually losing their power to pull me under. And somewhere along the way, without quite realizing it was happening, I stopped being a victim of my circumstances and started being the architect of a new life. Where I am now. So that brings us to today. To this video. To me, finally resurfacing after 8 months of silence. I'm currently in Bali, where I've rented a small villa for the past 2 months. The nomadic phase of my journey has ended, at least for now. I've established a routine here, mornings spent writing, afternoons consulting remotely for small businesses, a new career direction I've discovered I excel at, evenings watching the sunset from my porch. The $85,000 I left with? I've lived on less than half of it, investing the rest in a way that now generates enough passive income to sustain this modest lifestyle indefinitely. It turns out, when you strip away the trappings of the life you thought you wanted, the luxury car payments, the oversized mortgage, the constant social obligations, you need far less than you imagined. Am I still heartbroken? No, not exactly. There are moments when a song or a smell or a random memory will trigger a pang of something. Not quite pain, more like the recognition of a former self I've outgrown. Am I still angry? Sometimes, fleetingly. Not at Melissa specifically, but at the time wasted. At my own blindness. But those moments pass quickly now. What I feel most strongly is gratitude. As strange as it might sound, I'm grateful for those text messages I found 8 months ago. They freed me from a false future. They catalyzed a transformation I didn't know I needed. I've decided to revive this channel, but with a new focus. I'll be sharing what I've learned about creating a location-independent life, about financial minimalism, about rebuilding yourself after loss. Not as an expert, but as someone figuring it out in real time. The questions. I know you'll ask. Before I end this video, let me address some questions I know will flood the comments. Will I ever go back home? Yes, eventually. I miss my family and genuine friends, but home will be somewhere new. I can't return to the city where every street corner holds memories of my old life. Do I regret taking the money? This is complicated. Morally, I know it wasn't entirely right to take money that included her family's contributions. But in the raw aftermath of discovery, it felt like compensation for the emotional damage inflicted. If I could do it over, I would probably take only what was undisputedly mine. But I can't change that now. Did I ever consider forgiveness and reconciliation? Honestly, no. The level of betrayal, not just the physical cheating, but the months of lying, the mockery of our relationship, the complete double life, made reconciliation impossible for me. Some broken things can't be fixed. Sometimes clean breaks heal better. Am I dating again? I've had some connections during my travels, brief but meaningful. I'm open to love again, but I'm in no rush. The relationship I've been focused on rebuilding is the one with myself. Was it worth it? Walking away from everything? Without hesitation, yes. The man I am today is stronger, more self-aware, and paradoxically more capable of genuine intimacy than the man who found those text messages 8 months ago. Pain, when you move through it rather than around it, is transformative. Closing thoughts. So that's my story. 48 hours that destroyed the life I had planned, but ultimately led me to the life I was meant to live. It's not a path I'd recommend. Heartbreak as a growth strategy is an extreme approach. But if you're watching this and going through your own version of betrayal or loss, know that what feels like an ending can become a beginning if you're brave enough to walk through the darkness. I'll be posting regularly again, sharing this journey of rebuilding and discovering. If that interests you, hit subscribe. If you're just here for the drama, well, I hope you found something of value anyway. Thank you for watching. For those who sent concerned messages during my absence, and for giving me the space to share this story on my own timeline. Remember, sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can lead to the best version of yourself. Until next time, Jake.